In 2002, one of the most influential cars in automotive history made a triumphant return to the United States. But less than 2 decades later, many in the car world are asking what Mini is still doing here. The tiny English car gave the world a revolutionary design that boosted the British car industry and helped consumers comfortably save fuel during a crippling fuel crisis. It also became a global phenomenon. It was made even more famous by Michael Caine in the 1969 film The Italian Job, and again by a remake of the film in 2003. The Mini left the United States in the 1960s when it couldn't keep up with changes to emissions regulations. Its return to America under the stewardship of German automotive powerhouse BMW brought fanfare and high hopes. But over the years, the Mini brand has increasingly struggled in the US as buyers in this country turn away from small cars and toward SUVs. In order to survive, Mini is relying ever more on larger, crossover-like vehicles that are very different from the efficient and compact cars its name suggests. The Mini first debuted on August 26, 1959. It was the creation of Sir Alec Issigonis, chief engineer for the recently formed British Motor Company.
A new baby in a famous family, and important because it's so small, the British Motor Corporation's Mini Minor.
BMC had been looking for a small, very small, vehicle capable of fitting 4 adults that could compete with the microcars developed largely by German auto companies. Small cars were immensely popular at the time, due in part to the Suez Crisis, which had sent fuel prices skyrocketing. But creating a tiny car that can still comfortably fit 4 grown humans is pretty difficult. Issigonis and colleagues pulled a few tricks that allowed them to have it both ways. They shrunk the car's wheels and pushed them out to the corners of the frame. They turned the engine sideways. The gearbox was stacked below the engine in the oil pan. This highly efficient design gave the tiny car a spacious interior. To get the most space out of the 4-foot wide, 4-foot high, 10-foot long car, the doors were made so thin that window cranks would not fit, so sliding windows were installed. The wheels were a mere 10 inches in diameter. Even the door hinges were moved outside the car to save space. It also gave the vehicle excellent handling. The extreme positions of the wheels gave the Mini a wide, stable stance and allowed it to handle like a go-kart. The weight of the flipped engine kept the front of the car very stable. Despite its practical advantages, the car bewildered customers at first, but it took off. By 1965, 1 million Minis had been made.
It was an absolute revelation to get in this car, which cost less than £500 here. It was one of the cheapest cars in the market, and actually start driving it and realize that you could have an economical vehicle that was also fun to drive.
It was in many ways like the Volkswagen Beetle, in that it was something of a classless vehicle, attracting a wide array of buyers.
You were buying a tiny sports car and you didn't have to be a playboy to afford it, so it was a great democratizer of driving enjoyment.
This was partly helped by its performance on the track. The car's unique features made it a favorite choice for race car drivers in the 1960s. Issigonis was friends with the British race car maker and driver John Cooper, who became enamored with the car's handling and was convinced it would make an excellent rally car. Issigonis was initially reluctant, but Cooper eventually persuaded him to produce the classic Mini Cooper 997, a higher performance version of the tiny Mini with a bigger engine and bigger brakes.
For racing drivers who've grown up with certain types of cars with the engine at the front and the drive at the back, this was just absolute revelation. Every time somebody got into a Mini Cooper, they just couldn't believe how well it went.
Mini Coopers placed as high as 3rd in the famous Monte Carlo rally in 1963, and then won the race for the first time the following year. Minis would go on to win in 1965 and 1967. But the 1969 film The Italian Job is often credited, even by Mini itself, as a major catalyst that boosted the car's reputation around the world. Actor Michael Caine said that he didn't have a license when the movie was filmed and actually learned to drive on set. The car was perfect for a film about a bank heist that involved car chases down narrow Italian streets. The Mini became something of a star in itself and reportedly spurred a craze for the tiny car. It also became a favorite ride for celebrities at the time, including Steve McQueen, all four Beatles, and Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones. But the Mini's impact goes far beyond a film-inspired fad. Issigonis's space-saving powertrain design, with its transverse engine and front-wheel drive, is today considered revolutionary and is credited with inspiring generations of cars. In 2000, a panel of 130 automotive journalists chose the Mini as the European Car of the Century. It came in second for the overall Car of the Century award to the Ford Model T. Over its lifetime, the Mini has been sold under different brand names, such as Morris and Austin, and passed from owner to owner. It ended up in the hands of BMW when the German automaker bought Britons Rover Group in 1994. The merger turned out to be bad for both parties, and BMW ended up selling off most of the group's brands, including Land Rover. But it kept Mini, which remains part of BMW's portfolio today. Under BMW, Mini undertook its first redesign in more than 3 decades.
To its horror, it realizes that nothing has been done over decades to sort of replace this iconic car that everyone loves. So the old one really is edging slowly towards the point where it would be illegal to sell it anymore. It can't meet crash regulations, it's polluting, it's unsafe, it's noisy.
The company reintroduced the brand to North America in 2002. That year, a remake of The Italian Job came out, with a distinctly different plot and a largely American cast replacing the British one. Critics observed that the Minis were the only link between the original film and the new one. But BMW's new Mini also aroused the ire of many purists. The new BMW Mini was bigger than the original, and detractors accused it of being more of a retro-looking showpiece than a true heir to the original. By many measures, the car was a hit anyway. BMW executives reportedly would have been happy with selling 150,000 Minis around the world in the early 2000s. Today, they sell more than twice that. But sales are falling. That roughly 361,000 units sold in 2018 was a 2.8% drop over the previous year. Europe is the brighter spot in the story. Sales of the BMW-owned Mini have grown more or less steadily from around 25,000 cars in 2001 to 217,000 in 2018. But in the US, Mini sold 7% fewer cars in 2018 than it did in 2017. The decline continued a trend the brand has suffered since 2013, when sales peaked at around 66,000 units. Mini is yet another one of those small, quirky, and highly practical cars that is, in one way quite literally, sitting in the shadow of taller, chunkier crossovers, sport utility vehicles, and pickup trucks, which are far more popular with buyers. Mini has tried to combat this by broadening its product lineup. The company that made its name selling tiny, fuel-efficient cars now sells a long 5-door car called the Clubman and a crossover-like model called the Countryman.
This is the icon, the one that started it all, but not the only one. Find the one for you.
So although the cars all have that family look to them, they really keep on top of regulations and customer expectations to keep improving it, and they don't want to go back to that old British laissez-faire of just, we make them like this and we've always made them like this.
But by beefing up its vehicles, Mini is moving further and further away from the traits that made it so famous in the first place. The Mini Cooper, for example, grew nearly 10 inches in length from 2002 to 2016. It grew an inch and a half in width and gained about 400 pounds. Mini had experimented with different designs in its early days, including vans, wagons, and pickups. And to be fair, cars tend to get bigger over time. The mid-size pickups of today are all larger than their forebears, for example. Comparing the size of a specific model from the early 2000s, such as the BMW 3 Series sedan, with the 3 Series of today will demonstrate that even a single model is likely to fatten up over time.
Today, that evolution of just standard Mini Cooper to what we have now, like Mini SUV, is antithetical to what the brand stands for.
Mini is also one of many automakers betting that it can find a future by going electric. The Mini Countryman hybrid accounted for 13% of the Countryman's total sales in 2018. The brand also debuted its first fully electric production car, the Mini Cooper SE, in July of 2019. Mini is lucky in that it has an exceptionally strong brand identity. So the company has begun to seek fortune outside the traditional automotive business. Some recent initiatives, which are so far small in scope, are nonetheless remarkable and highly unconventional for a car company. For example, Mini has branched out into fields such as fashion and real estate development. The brand has partnered with Chinese development firm Nova Property Investment Company to convert a former paint factory in Shanghai, China into a mixed-use communal living facility comprised of apartments, workspaces, and cultural and leisure amenities. In 2016, Mini also launched an incubator in Brooklyn, New York for startups across a range of industries, including transportation. These are bets many industry watchers say are necessary for any automotive company to arm itself for an uncertain future. Mini was a brand that grew out of a dire need for small, fuel-efficient cars. But what made it such a strong sell generations ago now makes it seem like a niche product, even a curiosity to many consumers.
Despite the grumblings of all these old Mini fans who are not long for this world, I would say, the way they're running it now as a premium small car brand is the right thing to do.
Mini says the move toward larger vehicles is in its favor. The company sees this as its opportunity to gain market share and reclaim the premium small car market once again. Mini said its current generation is the best product it has ever made, and that changes in size are due in large part to Mini's need to meet safety regulations. If the brand wants to stay alive in the US, it will need to adapt. Otherwise, like some other small car makers, it could find itself pulling up stakes and leaving, to the disappointment of many loyal fans.